Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to FMT Consultants' presentation today about how to drive growth through data analytics and reporting with NetSuite. I'm joined today, my name is Kevin Dupree, I'm the Senior Director of Business Development for FMT Consultants. I'm joined today with Paul Clayton, who is the Senior Director of Consulting Services and heads up our NetSuite practice. Paul will be taking us through most of the content today. I just want to do a brief introduction of our firm and also our agenda. So just a little bit of an overview of FMT, and then we're going to get into the meat of today's presentation, which is NetSuite SuiteAnalytics, and cover the components that you see here about reporting, searching, and KPIs. FMT, we're finishing up our 19th year of operation at the end of this month, and just going to be moving on into our finishing up our 20th year. We have over 200 active clients, mostly in Southern California, but some that spread across the Midwest, Eastern Seaboard, and up into the Toronto, Canada area. Currently, we have about 47 people on staff, with 37 of those being in professional services, helping our clients on a regular basis. We have offices in both Carlsbad, San Diego, and then also in Los Angeles as well. So our firm, obviously we're experts in the ERP and accounting space. NetSuite, being an integrated business management solution, has not only the financial aspects, but distribution, manufacturing, project accounting, as well as customer relationship management. And really our firm has all of the in-house capabilities with our W-2 consultants to meet your needs, not only today, but as your company grows, we're there to support you long term. So why us? A proven history. We have over 750 projects implemented to date. We have a team of certified NetSuite solution consultants to help you, not only through the implementation, but also any integration projects or some advanced capabilities like we're going to talk about with some of the business intelligence capabilities of NetSuite. Our project methodology is structured to be able to deploy the solution rapidly and cost effectively. And the big thing of working with a business solution partner like FMT is stability. Want to make sure that the investment that you're making in the knowledge capital that you're having to invest into your business partner to help them to wrap software around your business processes, that partner is going to be with you for the long term. And with our proven track record of stability of over 19 years, I think that kind of stands for itself. And then one of the big differentiators is our project teams. Besides our staff of experienced consultants, we also assemble a project team that's there for the life of your project, whether that project just be a few weeks to a few months. The last thing you want is a revolving door of different team members rotating in and out, because you're going to have to explain again your business to those folks. And so we assemble a project team. That's the team through the duration of the project. And they're going to get you through the process and get you the value that you need out of the NetSuite solution. Certainly, we talked about the full service offerings that we have, but more importantly is after the implementation is over, you may have some additional support needs, and so we have a comparable experienced team in our customer care group, which is our after implementation support team, that's open from 6 in the morning until 6 o'clock at night, and able to help you Monday through Friday. And so if your project team is out working with other clients, our customer care team can get you the answers that you need, either because they have that knowledge or they can get in touch with the project team members to get some specific knowledge capital from them. And then our focus is really on long-term partnerships with our clients. We want to make sure that the work that we're doing today is of value to you, and the experience is a positive experience, so that as your company evolves and you want to get us to help you implement a new entity or some additional features and functions of NetSuite, that we're there to help you, and that the experience that you had through the initial implementation is positive and you want to re-engage us. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul Clayton, and he's going to take us through today's content on SuiteAnalytics. Paul?
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate everybody joining us today and taking the time. As Kevin mentioned earlier, we're going to go ahead and look at some of the capabilities through NetSuite and its SuiteAnalytics functions. We're going to do that by first taking a look at standard reports, and then moving into saved searches, and then looking at KPIs as well as KPI scorecards and meters. And as we're doing that, we'll actually use those functions to kind of build us a dashboard. So at the end of the session, we'll have a nice dashboard that we can publish out to the users and have everybody seeing their data on a unified system in a real-time basis. All right, so let's start by talking a little bit about standard reports in NetSuite. So standard reports, we want to make sure that we use those when we need to summarize data into groups and subtotals and totals. There are a plethora of standard reports within the NetSuite application that are all categorized by your purchasing reports or your inventory reports or your sales reports. One we're going to look at today is the sales by item report, which is useful when you're looking at items sold, quantities, and the associated revenue to those particular sales. We also use standard reports when we want to view the details of the data within the report. So quite often when we have a report open in NetSuite, we can actually drill back to that particular report and the detail behind the information that's being presented. So let's jump in and check out standard reports. We'll kind of investigate how to determine the output of a standard report. We'll see where that report data comes from. And then we'll run the reports and then show the kind of the output features as well as how to distribute reports and share them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and jump over into the application now. All right, so I'm going to wait for that to resolve for everybody. Everybody should be seeing the NetSuite. This is actually the reports overview page that I've logged directly into. I'm sure everyone on the phone is familiar with the navigation of NetSuite. If not, you can see up here that we have our different tabs that we use to navigate through the NetSuite application. I've actually come in here to Reports and Reports Overview, and now I'm on that Reports Overview page. I can get to the reports within this page by actually clicking on the particular grouping, and then it shows the detail behind those report groupings. So here we have our inventory reports, and next we have kind of some sales reports here. So I can launch the reports here. I can also launch these standard reports by coming up into Reports, driving down to the actual category, and then selecting the report that I want to run. So here we'll select that sales by item report that we were just talking about. Okay, so we can see here that I've got that standard sales by item summary report. This report's available, and most reports are available in both the summary and detail format. As I mentioned, we can actually drill back into information relative to this report. So here I have my inventory item, an Apple iPad, quantity sold of 16. I can drill right back into the detail behind that report and see that this particular inventory item was sold on various invoices, and a little bit more of the detail behind that. These reports, while we're looking at a standard report, also give us the option to be able to customize them if we have the roles and access rights to do so. Obviously, you can't just jump into a report, standard report, and customize it unless you've been granted that particular permission within the system. But I'm logged in as an administrator into this demo account, and I do have that ability to come down and customize the report. So if I come down here to the bottom left of my screen, I can actually click on this Customize button, and it starts to give me some detail around how this particular report was constructed and how it was built. You can see over here in terms of the source data for that particular report that we've got some item information, item type fields, and then we also have sales information that we're grabbing to pull onto this particular report. And when you look at a report in NetSuite and you're thinking about customizing a report, obviously it's a really good idea to understand what you want to do in terms of customization and customizing a particular report. So you can start with the right standard report rather than starting from fresh. You really don't, or you really want to try and avoid starting from fresh when you're actually creating a NetSuite report. Here, I just want to make some changes to this sales by item report because I'd really like to know who or which salesperson is responsible for selling these items. Well, that's a simple customization that we can do by coming down here and actually pulling that sales rep information. So I can come down here into my sales rep item objects, grab the name, and as soon as I click on that, it pulls that column right into the report. And then I have the capability to move that left or move that right or wherever I want to put it within the report. So now I've got my items listed here, my item description, my sales reps, and now I can see who actually is doing that, the selling of that particular item, quantity, and then total revenue. Okay, so we can come down here and preview this. So now we've got our Apple iPad. We see that Mark Collins is the sales rep, sold 16. We can drill back into the detail just like we did a little bit earlier. If I've got too many groupings going on over here to the left, I want to clean that up a little bit. You can certainly do that by jumping right back into your customization window and removing some of that grouping. So here, if I click on that item type grouping, or the items which are grouped by item type, I can remove that item type grouping, and now I'm just going to show the items. So I can preview that. If I like it, I can save it off. And then I have my customized report. Now NetSuite will keep the standard report version. So you're not changing the standard report. You're only creating, in addition, your customized report for sales by item. Okay? So that's a little bit about how to use standard reports as well as customizing the standard reports. As you can see, it's fairly easy to add fields, customized fields to the reports. So just to cover off a few more things relative to reports, we jump back in here. So as we mentioned a little bit earlier, reports can be shared. So we can actually print the report, share it that way. We can graph the report out. See down here at the bottom, I have a little graph icon which allows us to convert that report into a graphical image. I can email or schedule that report. So if I click on my email button down there at the bottom right, I can actually set up a schedule to email that report to certain participants, or certain recipients, I should say. And then we can also export the report, standard feature, standard functionality to export those reports out to Microsoft Excel. So just some standard best practices when you're generating a report or thinking about customizing a report within NetSuite. Obviously, we want to review our company's existing reporting needs. Many of the reports, as I mentioned, are already available within NetSuite and already categorized under purchasing and inventory, sales, employee activity, that kind of thing. So a lot of those standard reports will be there and probably will meet 75, sometimes up to 100% of your need right there with the standard report. So you want to peruse those standard reports and really become familiar with them from the reports overview page that we were looking at earlier. We should study the NetSuite help topics for report definitions and content detail. So there's help embedded right within the application to be able to customize that report or to be able to find particular reports like we were doing earlier. FMT has some information relative to, and you have access to record browser lists, so you can kind of understand what records make up which reports to help you if you want to continue to customize a given report. And then we always want to execute the standard report to test the content. So if we know kind of what we're looking for, and in my case it was a sales by item report, and I want to understand what the sales were and what the quantities were sold per item and what that revenue was, I can generate that sales by item report, and I can start to look at that standard report and say, okay, yeah, this is giving me a lot of the information that I need. Let me go down and customize this report, check out the report sources, the source fields. and really start to familiarize myself with that report so I can see how I need to modify it, if I do need to modify it. Then I can run similar reports, and I can compare both of those reports. I can compare summary and detail reports to see what I might be looking for, or what happens when I drill into a standard report, what kind of detailed report that launches. All right, so that's standard reports. Let's jump to the next topic. The next one is safe searches. So anytime anybody is mentioning and talking to you about wanting a list within the NetSuite application, I need a list, and I need it to be dynamic, and I need it to be live, and I need it to be refreshed. That's really what they're asking for, is a safe search within the application. Okay, safe searches, they're great. As I said, they can be dynamically built. You might use them in cases where you need to look at new lead records. You need that data refreshed quickly and in real time. Maybe if you're identifying specific groups of customers that you want to target for a marketing campaign, or identifying customers who have overdue payments. Those are all very easy searches, safe searches to build. So with safe searches, we're going to take a look at how you can define a safe search, criteria, and results. Those are the two main keys in the safe searches, is really effectively defining that criteria and the results that you want to see in that safe search or that list. We can use highlighting and sorting and filtering capability to make the information manageable when we see it. And when we take it out to an external application, we want to drop that out to Excel or a CSV file. Really makes it manageable, so we're getting exactly what we're looking for. We can export, just like with standard reports, we can export an email and add safe searches, share that information. Just really make it accessible to everybody, to the point of where we can actually put that on a dashboard if we want to do that. Okay. So why a safe search? So we've talked about you would use a safe search when you want to create a dynamic list of results, when you want to incorporate criteria-based highlighting, so you can really point out those records and alert the users to a specific data scenario. If we want to use complex formulas to obtain search results, we'll actually do that in one of our safe searches that we'll look at here in just a little bit. As I mentioned, we can expose safe search results in lists, so we can actually grab that, save that search, and we can actually grab that search from a list and run it at any given time. We can also create custom KPIs from our saved searches. There's a lot of functionality around actually using and creating and saving searches. So you can create a safe search in NetSuite multiple ways. You can get to it multiple ways. That's usually the case with a lot of things that you navigate to in NetSuite. We can get it through the Reports menu, Report Safe Searches. We can get to it from the Lists menu. We'll actually use that when we look at Safe Searches here in just a moment. And we can get to it from the Transactions menu as well. When we actually create a safe search, we want to have an idea of what we're creating that safe search on. Is it going to be a master record, or is it going to be a transaction? So we want to be able to start in the right spot based on what we know we want to create that safe search for. And again, just as always, as I mentioned before, same thing with the standard reports. What you can create a safe search on really depends upon your roles and your permissions within NetSuite. So a big tip there at the bottom, you really want to make sure that you start in the right spot relative to a saved search. So if your saved search is transaction related, you want to start with a transaction-based saved search because it's easier to add master record or entity-based fields to a transaction search than it is to start with an entity-based search like customer or item and add transactions to that entity. Okay. So let's take a look at saved searches. So I'm going to switch on over to the application. Bear with me one second here while I do that. Okay, let's wait for that to refresh so everybody can see the application. So if I jump into lists, search, save searches, new, where we're actually going to start our saved search. In this particular case, we're going to look at customers that don't have a sales rep assigned to them. We've got to get that sales rep assigned so we can get that sales rep working with that customer to manage that particular customer or client. In this particular demo instance, we're running OpenAir, so in our NetSuite SRP functionality with OpenAir. So I'm going to scroll down. You can see that we've renamed the customer as client. That's just one of the setup preferences within NetSuite that you can manage. So I'm going to grab my customer or client-based search. So if I click on client, it brings up my Save Search menu. So now we're in the process of creating that Save Search. It gave us a custom search title. So I'm going to go ahead and rename that. We'll call it, I'm just going to preface it with FMT, Customers Without Sales Rep. So we'll go with that. You always want to give those saved searches a title that you know that you can search off later. Within NetSuite, we have this global search capability up here at the top right. So one way we can easily find this search is through our search list that we publish it to. We can see it right there off the menu, or we can just search for it by typing in FMT customers, and it'll pull up the option to grab that saved search list. We have some options up here at the top in terms of how we make this saved search available within the application. Very flexible, so we can make it available to the public so everybody can see it. If this is unchecked, then only the user that's creating that search and the administrator can see it. We can make it available as a list view. So if we're in some other list or on some other page within NetSuite, it'll actually be available at the footer of that page. In terms of viewing it, dropping down and grabbing that particular saved search, so we can make it available in a list. We can make it available as a dashboard view or a sublist view. If we create a sublist custom page and we want to make it available on that sublist custom page, we can do that. We can add it to our reminders queue in our reminders portlet on our dashboard, which we'll see in a little bit. And we can show it in the menu, so it's really easy to find, right? We just drop down to List Saved Searches. Our list will pop up, and there will be our FMT Customers Without Sales Rep list. Okay, so the two primary components of your saved search are really the criteria and the results. Now, right now we've got a saved search on client, which obviously encompasses a very large subset of data, right? So we want to reduce that down to a manageable set of data, and we do that via our criteria. So right now we're currently on the criteria tab. The criteria I'm going to set for this particular search, so we can start to kind of nail some things down, is I want to see the status of that particular customer. So I'm going to grab the status, and I can set the status to where it's none of, I don't want to see lost customers, and I don't want to see lost prospects. So by holding down the Control key, I can search more, or I can set multiple criteria for my particular saved search. So now I've got status set to none of lost customers or lost prospects. Okay. I can also add sales rep. So I want to see that component. That's kind of the meat of our search here. I want to see where the sales rep is unassigned. So I'll set that. Okay, the last thing I want to see is I don't want to see individuals. I want to see companies in my saved search list. So I'm going to set this to make sure that I'm looking at companies only. So I'll say is individual, nope, and don't want to see individuals. So with those 3 filters, now I've narrowed down my list of information that's going to get returned. If I come over to my Results tab by clicking on that Results tab right there, you can see NetSuite has started to display fields for me based on that type of search, saved search that I'm creating. I'm going to go ahead and remove all these because that's really too many things. I don't want to see those, and I don't want to go through each one of those columns and delete them. So I'm going to click on the Remove All button. I'm going to start from scratch, essentially. Okay, so the fields that I'm particularly interested in are the name field. So I'm going to add that one. I want to see the email address for contact purposes, so I'm going to add that in. I want to also see the actual address. So that one's easy to grab. Let's go ahead and add that as a column. My sales rep, again, important component of this report. So let's add that one in. And then I also want to see the balance for that particular customer. So if my sales rep, that in this case is not assigned to that particular customer or client, they can use this safe search to understand if there's an existing balance out for that customer or that client. So I'll go ahead and add that one in. So up here, I've got several ways where I can sort that data. Some output capability here in terms of how I want to see it. So in this case, I would really like to see my balance data sort in descending order. I'm going to go ahead and leave my output type as normal. I can throw it out in report format, grid format, or graphical format. Several options there. And in safe searches, if you're looking at information that you can total, it's always good to show that total if you want to see it. I'm going to go ahead and click that button. All right, at this point, I'm starting to get a good feel for what I want to see in my safe search, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this preview button here so I can preview the data. And I look at that and I say, okay, well, this is looking pretty good. You know, I've got my customers, I've got some email information, address information, and I've got my balances. I wouldn't expect to see a sales rep here because I'm looking for customers that I don't have a sales rep assigned, so I can go ahead and fix that. And we can have the customers get in touch, the sales reps get in touch with these customers. A couple of things here that are pointing out at me that since I know this data, that I really want to see a little bit better. So I can come back to the criteria within that safe search, go to my highlighting tab, which I'll click on right here. And now I want to see some information that's popping out at me a little bit more. So I can do that by setting conditions. So I want to say, let's go ahead and set a condition where I'm focusing in on the balance, right? And my balance is greater than, and we'll put in $6,000. So let's set that condition. And if that condition exists, you know what? I want to see that text color of red. I want to see the background color of yellow. Let's bold out that text. And let's preview that. Much better. Now I can see some information that I really want my folks to hone in on. Something prevalent and throughout the NetSuite application is this inline editing functionality. So I can come up here with inline editing. I can turn that on, again, assuming I have the capability or the permission to do that. I can turn that on, and now I can come in and I can start to address my customers that don't have a sales rep assigned. You can see when I click that button, a little pencil showed up above each one of the columns that allows me to edit that record. So I can start at the top here, and I can start assigning my particular sales reps to these customers. And then save out those records, and that'll go back and it'll actually update the record within the application. Some other great things about saved searches. Let's jump back into our criteria. I can actually email saved searches. So if I want to come in here, and once I get that saved search set, I can come in here, I can set recipients to email that out, and then customize the message for the email or the body of the email, and then I can schedule that email as well. So with that saved search, we can produce that and send it out to folks on a set schedule. Through the Audience and Roles tab, I can assign permissions down to the very lowest level if you want. You can see here that right now I've got all roles selected because we had that set as a public. Save search, if I unselect that, you can see it unselects the public option there. If I select it again, it reselects the public option. So it helps keep that continuity relative to how you're setting the permissions for that particular save search. Okay. So a lot of neat functionality there relative to save searches and how they can be used. We only looked at one way, that being through a customer type save search. But obviously, save searches can be created on any set of data that's stored within NetSuite. Okay, so we can save that and run it. And there's our final save search. Now we've got that available for us to use within the system. Okay. All right, so that saved searches. Let's jump on over into back to our PowerPoint. And just review some save search best practices. So save search best practices, obviously you want to get in there. You really want to understand, gather requirements, and design that save search before you start to construct it within NetSuite. That's super important because you want to really know, am I generating a save search off some kind of NetSuite entity or record? For example, is this specifically a customer or an item-related save search? Or is this more of a transaction-related save search? You really want to make sure you're understanding where you need to start from and what kind of data you're pulling onto that save search. We have some tools here at FMT that help do that. In terms of when we're working with our customers, we pull out some worksheets that help us to lay that initial design out so we can figure out if the source of that save search data is customer or item-related or transaction-related. You want to determine the required fields for your criteria and results. You want to make sure you understand when you get to that results tab that we looked at a little bit earlier and started pulling information onto our save search, what we really need to present. Look at the records and transactions in NetSuite to familiarize yourself where the data lives. So if we're actually looking at a customer-based save search and creating a customer, or a client in this case, related save search, let's get out to the client master record and just pull one up and take a look at the different fields that exist, fields and subfields that exist within that particular master record. That'll help us understand what we want to pull onto our save search when we start to construct it. If your search has anything to do with a transaction, start with a transaction search, what I mentioned a little bit earlier. So make sure you're starting with that inventory transaction or that sales order or that sales invoice or that purchase order or purchase receipt or perhaps journal entry before you actually start to construct it and you pick what is the source of my saved search. Earlier you saw I picked client or customer because we're creating more of a customer-based saved search. Obviously, we want to reflect our criteria in our results so that so that we are focusing on the particular data that we need to focus on for that particular save search. And then we want to, in the set preferences section of NetSuite, we want to make sure that we select show list when only one result. If for some reason we're creating a saved search and it only returns one record, by default, that record is going to pop up onto your NetSuite window. It's going to actually pop the master record, or it's actually going to pop the transaction. It's not going to pop it in list format. It'll pop it in terms of kind of an inquiry on that customer or on that item or on that transaction format. So if we have show list when only one result, it'll pop it in a list format so that we know we're getting a saved search list rather than inquiring on a transaction or a customer or an item. All right, so that's saved searches. Let's talk about KPIs. So KPIs are a lot of fun in NetSuite. These are refreshable KPIs. KPIs range from KPIs that display as far as graphs are concerned, or perhaps our KPIs are shown in terms of charts, or these different types of scorecards that we'll show you in just a little bit. There's a lot of different ways that KPIs can be displayed within the application. So KPIs, something to think about with KPIs is, how am I monitoring my key business drivers? And how quickly can I notice change? KPIs can really help you do that. Rather than spending hours drilling into reports and creating different types of, trying to figure out what types of lists I need to pull from the system, you may be able to dive right into a specific KPI and present that KPI on your homepage, your dashboard, so that you can see how things are affecting that performance, key performance indicator real time. Okay, so using key performance indicators facilitates the tracking of specific metrics, things that you want to see. Maybe it's revenue, maybe it's COGS, maybe it's new client opportunities or new leads that are being produced. And we can spot changes in those business drivers as they're happening. Refreshable KPIs, right? We can see what the difference is in that KPI from 1 hour to the next very easily. So we're going to use KPIs when we need to track information to spot trends in our business, right? So we can put a KPI on a bank balance with a threshold. That will let us know if the company bank balance falls below $20,000. One way you can use a KPI. We can put a KPI on sales to let us know if it's going up or down, and by how many percentage points. We put a KPI on web page hits. Allow us to see if we have more or fewer people visiting our website, or what kind of activity we're getting relative to cart abandonment or things like that. So KPIs can be set in NetSuite to compare one date range against another. And that change actually gets calculated for us. You can see down there at the bottom, positive changes are indicated in green, while negative changes warns the users in red font. So here we have a decrease in payables, which is shown in green, but a decrease in sales is actually shown in red. And again, we can drill right into the information that's available on that KPI. If it's set as a hyperlink, we can go right back into the report that shows us the detail, or the safe search that shows us the detail behind that particular KPI. We can get the latest information from our KPIs by just going in and out of our home page or refreshing individual KPIs. We can also refresh the entire KPI portlet. So most of you are familiar with the concept of portlets within your home page. Little sections that, in this case, will contain your KPIs that are presented on your home page. Excuse me. There's a graph icon right next to the KPIs, which we'll look at here in just a second. That pop-up trend graph will display information based on a selected date range that we want to look at, daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly, as you see down there at the bottom right. We can download that image to use in other applications. We can drop it right into a PowerPoint presentation or perhaps a Visio diagram. And we can also export those KPIs to CSV files. And again, all functionality that's available right there from that export function down that you see down on that trend graph at the bottom right. Another great thing about KPIs is we can use the quick date selector. Over on the left-hand side, we can actually input that a variable that we want to look at that compares maybe this week to last week or this month to last month. And it'll automatically refresh our KPIs based on that selection by the Quick Date Selector. And it does that for all the KPIs so that you're not in there and you're not messing with refreshing each one of the KPIs individually. Okay. So let's look at how SuiteAnalytics allows you to do a few different things with KPIs. So we can add a KPI portlet to the home dashboard. Let's set up a standard KPI. We'll create a KPI scorecard. Let's look at some KPI pop-up trend graphs and set up a KPI meter. And boy, by the time you've done all that, you basically have a dashboard built for yourself. Right? You'll see it's not a difficult thing to do. Okay, all right, I'm going to jump on over into the KPI area of NetSuite. Let me go ahead and share off the application, if you bear with me for just one moment. All right, so we still have our Save Search up there. So let's go back to our home dashboard. And you can see on purpose, I don't have much of a dashboard there. And I removed things because I wanted to start from kind of a clean slate to actually show you how, in a very short period of time, we can build a nice dashboard using KPIs. So our first step is we're going to come up here to the top right. We're going to click on Personalized Dashboard. Again, a lot of this is available assuming that you have the roles and the permissions available to do that within the system. So most of the time, you will have the ability to personalize your dashboard. Dashboards can also be published and restricted. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But one of the first things that I would like to do is come over here and add my KPI section or portlet. So I'm just going to go click on Key Performance Indicators. Easy enough. So now that portlet is added to my dashboard, I'm going to drop down and I'm going to set some things up within it. So here we select into our KPI portlet what we want to see. We can add standard KPIs, which there are many of them that come right out of the box. And then we can also create custom KPIs as well. We can add those to our dashboards. So let's go ahead and go into standard dashboards. And I want to see a few things relative to my Salesforce automation components, my CRM components. So let's take a look at new leads. I'm going to go grab that over here. So it inserts it over to the right, so I will see that on my KPI portlet. New clients, new opportunities, opportunities lost. I can go get them, work on them, see if I can get them back maybe. My pipeline, I want to grab some pipeline information there. Sales, I'm going to drop down and move to the next menu and grab my sales. Total open opportunities, so we'll grab that here. And total open estimates. We'll put that in there as well. So once I click done, now those are listed there and they're ready to present on my KPI portlet. Right? So if we save that off, there are my KPIs. I may want to put a few more things into this relative to what I'm looking for. So I might want to highlight some of this and really put some formatting around it. You can certainly do that. It's fairly easy. Okay, so I might want to see my new leads. Instead of for today, I want to see them for this month. I can scroll down. I can grab this month. Okay, and then I want my compare range. I may want to see same month, last fiscal quarter to date. You know, the same thing I'm looking at for everything else. Okay, so that's looking good. So we can come down to new clients. Is there anything I want to do to new clients? You know what? I actually do want to see. I want to highlight the new clients if my new clients are greater than, say, 25 that have been added. And I actually want to headline that. You know what? I'm going to do that for leads as well. I'll set that for greater than. If I got greater than 10 new leads out there, I'm going to headline that also. And by headline, you'll see what I mean here in just a minute. Okay. And then on my sales. Sales are super important to me, so I want to see anything where my sales are greater than maybe 100% variance change, and I'm going to headline that. All right, so let's save that off. And now I can start to see how things are sort of illuminating and popping out the screen out of me. I've got my new leads up, I've got my new clients up, and I've got my sales all headlined. I've got those things highlighted within my KPI. And again, I can drill right on back to it with the hyperlinks that are available. Okay, so now I've added my KPIs. So now let's add what's called a KPI scorecard. Okay, KPI scorecards, a little bit different from your KPIs. Your KPI scorecards are actually built from KPIs. You'll see that here in just a second. So if I come down into customization, oops. Drop that down again. Customization, centers, tabs, KPI scorecards. I actually want to build a new one. So let me try that again. New KPI scorecard. So here I can actually build a KPI scorecard. And again, like I said, you build KPI scorecards off of existing KPIs. So I'm going to do a gross profit percent of sales. So in the description, I'll put it over there as well. It's my gross profit percentage of sales. I'm actually, you know what, on this one, instead of using date ranges, I'm going to use periods. So it's probably going to make me define that gross profit percent of sales name again. So let's do that. So that we're using periods instead. Okay, now I'm going to drop down and say, okay, based on this KPI scorecard, what KPIs am I going to be looking at? So we want to look at first the sales KPI. Let's go out and grab that one. I'll add that to my scorecard. Let's look at the cost of goods sold KPI. I'll add that. And I'm going to add a formula. We talked about formulas a little bit earlier. I'm going to add a formula percent. So if I tab over, I come over to my formula field, click on my expansion window, I can actually add a formula in here. Okay, formulas can be complex, they can be not very complex, but in this case, we have a not so complex formula that I'm going to put in here, which is basically sales less COGS divided by sales. So we're getting 8% of sales return. So let's set that. Okay, and we'll add that to our KPI scorecard. All right. So now we need to define the periods for our KPI scorecard. So let's jump into our periods tab. We're going to grab this period. So the current period. We're going to grab the last period. And then we're going to do a comparison, kind of like we saw earlier on the KPIs. So we'll do this period, and we'll compare it to the last period. Yep. All right, our comparison type that we want to set is a variance percent, so presented in a percent, and we'll label that particular column change. And let's add that one in. Okay, so now we've kind of built the KPIs that we're using within our scorecard. We've built those particular periods. All right? So let's save off this gross profit percentage of sales. So we'll save that one off. Let's go back to our home dashboard. And then we can add this. Actually add this to our dashboard. So it's our KPI scorecard that we just created. So let's go over to Personalized Dashboard, KPI scorecard. Jump into my setup of that KPI scorecard. Go grab my GP, gross profit percent of sales. Save that off. And there we are. We've got our gross profit percent of sales. We have our sales, cost of goods sold, and our formula, all embedded within that KPI scorecard. Okay, Okay, so that's a good representation of how you can use KPIs as well as KPI scorecards. We can do various other things relative to KPIs. So we can actually add KPI meters that are, again, embedded within the application. So our KPI meters are really graphical representations of different items within NetSuite. So I can come over here and I can add a couple of KPI meters. Maybe we'll leave one open for total open opportunities. And I'll have one set for total open estimates. Now we've got our KPI meters over to the right there, graphical representation of what's going on, real-time updates as I'm refreshing and logging into my dashboard. And lots of other capabilities within the dashboard component. Here, if I want to add some tasks, maybe I want to add my reminder portlet in there as well. And I've got some other things that I can be looking at. I kind of want to have my KPIs up at the top of the page, just so those really stand out at me, so I can actually move that KPI portlet up to the top. I want my KPI scorecards right below that, so I can throw that. Oops, it actually went above it. That's fine. So I got all my KPIs and KPI scorecards at the top. My reminders and my tasks set there in the middle. I can very easily add reminders. We can jump in, we can add a custom reminder or a particular reminder. In this case, I'll add my opportunities to be scoped, throw that in there, save it off. And now I know I have 9 opportunities to be scoped that I can drill right back into from my dashboard. Okay. Tasks as well, I can add tasks on the fly. Now maybe I need to post my accruals. Get that done today. Get the month closed, whatever the case might be. Right. So then I've got my task out there, which has that inline editing set automatically. So I can come in here and I can change those priorities if I need to, or what the status of that particular task is. Okay. A lot of other capability there. I can set up some shortcuts if I want. So I come over here, add my shortcuts. So that popped up over here. Really, you have kind of 3 quadrants. Let me go ahead and close the content pane. You can see now I have 3 quadrants on the left, the middle, and the right. So I have my shortcuts popped up on the top right. If I want to add a shortcut, very easy to do that. New shortcut. Just add something in here relative to shortcut. Now, if we need help with NetSuite, I don't know if you saw that, but if you need help with NetSuite, then we can just jump right in and we can click on that and it'll go right to our FMT website. I don't want to do it right now since we'll have to log back into the application, but there you can kind of click on that link and jump right out to your external web page or whatever shortcut you want to set within NetSuite. Okay, so now that we've kind of built up this dashboard, I can say, well, this is looking pretty good. I've got my KPIs set. Obviously, we can, as I mentioned earlier, use the quick date selector, and we can refresh our KPIs based on different options that are available in the quick date selector. We can manage our reminders and our tasks. And then we can also monitor our KPI meters and scorecards just with a refresh of our home page. So all that information presented to you real time within the system and ready to go. If we wanted to publish this dashboard, we certainly could. So click on Publish Dashboard. Come out here, we can name the dashboard, determine what center we want to put that dashboard into, and then lock down the ability for users to be able to modify that dashboard if they want to. Okay? And we can apply that dashboard to different roles and different permissions for users within the system. So lots of different capabilities there relative to what we can do as far as that dashboard that we just created is concerned. Okay. Well, that pretty much, let me jump back in. I've kind of gone through the KPI demo, so I want to cover just real quickly a few best practices relative to KPIs. So obviously we want to make sure that, and let me switch back to the, switch back to the presentation here. You can see that, let that refresh. So for KPIs, best practices, we want to make sure our KPI portlet is placed up at the top center of the dashboard. So we really have that information, like you saw earlier, jumping out at you with regard to your KPIs, your meters, and your scorecards. Place them in a logical order. So how do I want to see them? How do I want them headlined? How do I want them highlighted? When using comparisons, the date ranges you should complement each other, right? You don't want to compare, this year to 3 years ago. Maybe you do, but typically this week to last week, this month to last month. And then we want to use that quick date selector if we want to change or update the dates on that on the KPIs, the meters, and the snapshots that we're pulling into that dashboard. So that we're not, if we don't need to, we're not having to refresh those KPIs individually. All right, well, I think we're just about to the end of our hour. Again, I really appreciate you jumping into our session and participating. If you guys have any questions relative to what we did today, we certainly are happy to address those. You can jump right on out to our website and submit your question there, or you can submit it directly to me if you'd like. My particular email address is pclayton, so P is in Paul, C is in Charlie, Layton @ FMTconsultants.com. All right, folks. Again, really appreciate your time, and everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.